Mhm. Yeah, Tony Robbins is definitely a unique individual, whereas where he, I guess, spawned from the NLP community. I always thought they saw him as like like they put him up there, like. But then again, the more I looked into it, it's like you're absolutely right. No, NLP community did not like Tony Robbins. But then I somehow visualized Tony Robbins being that crab in the NLP pot where he escapes to something bigger and better, and they're all like, "Get back in here!" Right? And so I'm thinking, well, why can't maybe the same thing should happen with Black Swan Group, right? Where you have all these negotiators using the methodology. We all practice it. It's kind of really hard to do otherwise. You have to learn the rules before breaking them. You really do. And so what I'm thinking is out of that, there's going to be one individual that escapes, and they're all like, "No, get back over here," and manages to escape. And whoever that individual is will definitely make Tony Robbins look like a fifth grade motivational speaker. It's my theory. I'd love to be that guy. And you're like wondering, well, I mean, like, how do you know his methodology is not as effective as Black Swan methodology? I know for a fact. I have it recorded, a situation. Uh, give you a quick rundown. I was essentially had a boss 10 years older, flipped 500 properties. Now he's on to flipping multi-residential apartment buildings, big stuff. He makes a big profit. He does great, no doubt on that. But um, I remember one time his little bag, a little brown bag. I go, what's this? What's this guy's secret? In his little brown bag, he had a Tony Robbins book, like a Bible. And I go, whoa. I'm in Chris Voss, and I've done the Tony Robbins. I've been through it in grad school, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I could see its value for sure. Just didn't really it doesn't really hit as hard, in my opinion. And so I'm like, well, maybe because I was not paying the big bucks like my boss mentor, because he even said he can get me tickets to Tony Robbins events at a discount. He goes to all of them. This guy is Tony Robbins prodigy, right? Prodigy. And we had a situation with a tenant, and he asked me to be there. It's always best, have more people, rough area. And I go, oh, yeah, I get to see firsthand you utilize all these awesome skills you've attained. And I get to learn, social learning theory. Oh, I'm going to get to learn here, right? I'm going to put all my little boss tools to the side, and I'm going to watch a Tony Robbins guy, like just, and to my surprise, 10 minutes into it, he looks over to me and gives me that, somebody gives you the, hey, I'm gonna say something here. I'm going like, in my head, I'm like, well, no, I'm not a Tony Robbins guy. Like, why the fuck am I gonna? What are you talking? What are you looking at me for like that? Do an accusation now to do some. I want to see some Tony Robbins stuff. Come on. And he's just, and so I go, all right, let me have some fun. I immediately go accusation note, my favorite Chris Voss one, where he says, you know, people say after talking to me, it's like being hit with a bag of bricks. Everybody goes quiet. And I'm going like, oh, that does that only work for Chris Voss? So I go, another one. But before I deployed the second one, after leaving the site, they all start cracking up. And I'm like, okay, okay. No way, no oriented question now. I mean, would it be crazy if he moved out by May? One, the woman, be close. No, actually, that's not because my brother was robbed across the street, and like now we got bad memories of this place, and I'm gonna get out of here. And I go, so calibrated question. What's stopping you from getting out? I don't know. You need some money. I'm like, $500? Yeah. All right, done. He had 2 grand or something like that to play with. And I'm like, oh, I just got it. And I couldn't believe he couldn't believe it. And so that's when I knew I go, Yeah, I need to take Black Swan stuff more seriously. I did the weekly session because it's truly, I think it's. What are your thoughts, William? You've listened patiently to this rant.
I don't think it was a rant. You hit on some wonderful points. It's Tony is an amazing man, and what he teaches is fantastic. It's a shame that Richard Bandler, the founder one of the founder and inventors of NLP, uh, he just doesn't have the personality of Tony,
Yeah.
and so unfortunately, it frustrates the bejesus out of the poor guy
Mm.
that here's Tony worth hundreds of millions. I mean, he's got to be close to 600 million, maybe a billion. I don't know. He's worth all of this. And Richard Bandler, the guy who invented the bloody thing, is sitting at, I think, 3 or 4 million. And yet there's NLP taught all around the world every day. And he doesn't really see the financial benefits of it. And if you get a chance to listen to Bandler, he is brilliant. I mean, he really is. He's got NLP as a foundation for communication is huge. Just like Chris Voss as a way to communicate is huge. But there's a difference between academic and somebody who's using it. And that's where Chris's team, for example, all of his people, his trainers, I know some of them, they're out there using it. They were using it before. These aren't people that just studied it like a Bandler.
Mm.
They went out and practically applied it. And that's where Tony took, LP classes is back in the 70s, man. We're going set the Wayback Machine here. This is late 60s, early 70s, and he's applying it to self-esteem. He's applying it to achieving things in life. And with those, he's the master. But let's use martial arts as an example. The master had to learn, be a white belt first. There had to be something for the master to learn. And eventually, you get so good at it that you start to come up with new ideas. I was trying to think whether it was Arthur C. Clarke or Einstein, one of these really smart people, I don't remember which one, would say, learn what everyone else has done so that you can do something different.
Like steal like an artist.
Anything, though. I mean, why reinvent the wheel? Now, the master ends up creating a better wheel, whether that's NLP, whether that's Chris Voss, whether that's Einstein. The true master, the true genius ends up inventing another wheel, but that's only after they've been a student. And even then, if we spoke to Einstein, if he was around today, I bet he would say he's still a student, he's still learning. So it feels like you had a not as powerful reaction to Tony, and that's a shame because the guy is brilliant and what he's come up with is amazing. However, it doesn't suit everyone. But nothing suits everyone. So it's what are we looking to apply it to?
Yeah. But many argue that, well, the Black Swan, you can really only apply for high stress situations, tense.
That's a shame.
And yeah, I'm hearing that often. It's like, well, I'm not practicing it because I'm not finding myself in those tense situations. And I'm going like, well, did you forget that the deadliest negotiation is the one you don't know you're in?
On
Yeah.
the nose.
Right. And
Exactly.
and so I'm like, I think people are walking around like they are doctors, meaning like people are gonna look out for me because I'm a good person. I do good for society. So I don't need to haggle. I don't need to bargain. I don't need to negotiate. I'm kind of entitled to fairness. And that's like what America is saying, I feel. And they're also saying, yeah, well, I don't have a million in my account. I'm kind of like a millionaire out of luck right now. And it's like, well, shouldn't you do stuff? Shouldn't you do things to get, protect your money and get more money and build things? The Lord will provide. And I go, that's fair. He can also take, you know, and like it's it's actually biblical. No, I'm really learning how to talk to these it's really strong Bible people. They say, well, a wealthy man can get to heaven like a camel has a better chance through the eye of a needle. And I'm going, well, if you look at the history, it's actually talking about a wall, and if you have a carriage with a bunch of things, it doesn't actually literally. And I go, but the Bible does say something that's very true, and it kind of goes with Tony Robbins that if you say you don't have, then you will continue not to have, and those that have will get more. Well, in order to like
Like
have,
attracts
you
like.
got to maintain and protect it. And so, like, what methodology do you use to protect? And they go, I use kindness. I go, well, dude, that's like you're a toddler. Somebody like me comes around, I'm taking that lollipop. Like, you have no idea what kind of. I just read this whole book that everybody's been talking about, and they say they see a lot of similarities, and so I had to pick it up. And I know somebody's probably mentioned this book to you.
Dark psychology. No,
It's a big
no.
hit right now with anybody under 25. This is what they're bringing to the mock sessions.
Okay.
And I love it because this book essentially kind of training people. There's negotiators, and there's dark psychology. It's trumping negotiators. It has the antidote to deal with a negotiator. And I'm like, oh wow. And it did. It said, if you want to beat a negotiator, you can mess with them by going past their deadline, right? Because now they're in oh damn, last version didn't work. Oh no, they took me past. Yeah, it's true, right? But then the book starts ending up with use listening, use mirroring, use empathy, and I go, that's the behavioral change stairway. Uh, and so I'm like, guys, that's what we're doing here. And so those are two pieces. This other one's important. This piece where people are just showing up, they they know the N9 tools. Calibrated question, no oriented. Paraphrase. Next one, next one, next one. And it's almost like watching a kid with a sports car just pedal to the metal, not even looking at the stop sign. And it's like, well, you're forgetting the other part what Black Swan calls caviar. You got to care, attention, all these other things. Um, but when you mix those two, holy crap, it's almost like the Ninja Turtles when they find that green ooze. For me, that's what it felt like. All right, so I'm greedy, naturally greedy. I know how to use the N9 tools, these badger people with it. Okay, it's getting me 60% opposed to 30% as before. But now when I add caviar and pretend to care and not use so many tools and be more incognito, wow, like you're like at 90%, 80%. It's almost unfair. And I'm starting to think that people like being taken advantage of. So then they have something to cry about. Um, this is a whole nother topic on its own. It's like, is it wrong to win too much? Now you gotta, Muhammad Ali said it best. He goes, you know what my problem is with being the greatest is hard to be humble. Like, how do you humble yourself, William? Because you're the only person I've seen come in through the Saturday session and literally sprint to all three, like, and having fun. No one's done it yet. Maybe one person came close, but I think at two, we saw some breakage happening. You were like,
Well, you've hit on a lot of brilliant points. And I'm not even sure where to start. How do I stay humble? Let me come back to that for a second. First, dark psychology. Uh, Chris has even said in several of his talks, you know, anything is the old Spider-Man quote. Great power comes great responsibility. Anyone can use anything. Is a gun bad? No, a gun's a tool. Can be used for bad things, but it can be used for good things too. A hammer, a leg of a chair. Well, it holds up your chair. It could also be
Mm,
used to hit somebody over the head. Okay, I mean,
true.
anything can be used by crappy people to hurt other people. I mean, that is what it is. And dark psychology, as you were talking about it, I was reminded of. Have you ever read Machiavelli's The Prince?
Yes, and I think most participants have read that.
Well,
Yeah.
do they know why he wrote it?
To try to please the new leadership so they can see that he thinks like them. Oh, this guy's like me.
No.
But he did not believe in it. He was almost writing it satirically, and it became almost set in stone.
Well, but think about the title. The author is Machiavellian. That's what we say. It's Machiavelli. But what is the title? The Prince. That is the title of the book. The title is
Mm,
not Machiavelli Prince. The title is The Prince. And
okay.
if we go back to whenever this was, I can't remember time to save my life, but there was a young prince of Venice. Now, why was Venice created in the middle of the bloody swamps? Because there were some really bad people around Italy and Croatia in that whole area. And they said, if we're surrounded by water, we're safe. So Machiavelli was hired by the king at the time, or whatever the lord or whatever his title was, of Venice, to train his son as a tutor. And he said, well, I've got to teach him these are the crappy ways that the people all around us are doing things. You've got to understand that, or they're going to take advantage of you. And that is the prince. He's writing a story to the prince so he can defend himself from all these very
Ooh,
unscrupulous things
getting
that are going
goosebumps.
on all around Venice. That is the Machiavellian way. It's not dark psychology and how can we screw people. The prince is about how to own our power without being stepped on. That's where it's coming from. But so many things get twisted, used in different contexts, whether it's a swastika. Okay, that was a peace symbol until the Germans came along. My last name, gay. That meant happy until homosexual. And I'm not downplaying anything. I'm just saying words get changed. So
So,
Machiavelli,
the color red was a very bad thing at
absolutely,
one point.
there's so many examples.
Yeah.
So many examples. So when we understand that, do people want to be taken, advantage of? I don't think anyone does at their core, although for the last, not to talk politics, I don't mean it as a political thing, but there is power in being a victim. So it feels like for the last, I want to go almost 20 years, that has been rising in the social zeitgeist, if you will. The more I can claim victimhood, the stronger I become. Whether that's poor, whether that's part of the LGBTQ community, whether that's race, whether that's women over men, I'm the victim, so I get to do what I want. And the reality is, we're back to great power comes great responsibility. The truly powerful people, to me at least, they're not victims, they're not rescuers, they're not trying to convince anyone
Mm.
of anything. But as Chris says in his, whether it was the book or videos, I don't remember, you can't negotiate one black shoe and one brown shoe. At the end of the day, somebody is going to get two black shoes. Somebody is going to get what they want. Now, do you have to rub their nose in it? No, because Chris also talks about you don't want to burn your bridges. And that's where, to use a political example, I'm actually very in favor of Trump, but he doesn't burn bridges, he blows them up. And this is why people in New York, for example, lots of real estate developers, now he's been very successful, and I admire a lot of what he's done. I don't agree with the philosophy that you win over everyone else. And Chris even talks about it in books and videos and other stuff that if the person walks away with a bloody nose, but yeah, you got what you wanted, well, you're never going to get anything else from this person. That doesn't help you. That doesn't
Mm.
get you any. I mean, in the short term pain for long term gain, well, maybe that short term pain for me is to give you a little more than I'm comfortable with, but in the long term, I'm going to get that back. And I'm going to get it back like tenfold. So
See that the
it's a
that's
balancing
becoming
it.
a very important thing. The long-term game, that's can you teach patience? And the Black Swan, I always find it interesting that they always get asked, well, Mr. Negotiator, what's your favorite tool? And a few of them said dynamic silence. And then many
Mhm.
say it's also I know you're thinking like, oh, we're using the easiest one. No, it's the toughest because dynamic silence requires patience. And my theory is you don't get imbued with patience until you're 25.
If you're lucky.
27. I've seen it in the mocks in the sessions. So, just yeah, it's so true. They know everything, and it's I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna stab my way through this bear. Um, and it's like, well, you're gonna get a lot of wounds. Well, I'll heal quickly. I'm young. I can take losses. It's like, I don't know, like I don't know if you want to really fuck around and find out, right? That's becoming the new term right now. Go ahead, mess around and find out. Yeah, I think patience, dynamic silence is so underrated.
Well, it feels like that's something that a lot of people miss with what Chris is teaching. And I've read the book, I did his master's class, I have close to 400 hours of watching his videos. Um, when he's talking about negotiation, even in the one bank robbery that he was involved with in New York, it took hours. I mean, this was not a 5 minute negotiation. If you look at the Philippine example that he gives, that took 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was not a quick, we're going to snap our fingers and the hostages are released. So I agree. Dynamic silence is probably one of the most powerful things that anyone can do with anything. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But what comes up is it, what is time? Are we talking 5 minutes? Are we talking 2 years? How long is this negotiation? Earlier you mentioned, well, I know they have a time frame, so we can screw with them by going beyond that. Well, what is that costing you? There's something that you're obviously interested in that this other person wants, or you wouldn't be. Are you looking just to feel good about yourself by screwing with them? Well, that's fine, but again, we're talking burning bridges here. Well, no, they actually have a product, and I'm thinking if I wait until past their deadline, I can get a better deal. Perhaps, but you're burning a bridge here. You're making an enemy of someone that, yeah, they'll give it to you and they're going to hate you. They're going to badmouth you from now until eternity because, yeah, I gave them a better deal, but I never want to do business with them again because, you know, they got it below cost. And look, we need to make money here. We're all in business to be in business. So is it looking at truly the big picture? not just this one conversation. That's that's hard. And if anything, that's what I try to bring to any conversation is what are we really saying? What is the goal here? Big picture, not just in this conversation, but the next conversation, next conversation. You ever
And
want to see this person again? It's that coffee shop person. It's that random person at the airport that I'm negotiating with. Again, if you leave them empowered, they're going to go through their day. I can't remember the guy's name. I ended up giving him a free trip or something else, but he was. I learned so much, and he transformed my life in 10 minutes. Or
reciprocation. Yeah.
that's it. Or at the end of the, yeah, I got my free trip, and this guy's cussing and moaning about, yeah, he beat me up, and I'm never doing that again. Not only have I hurt, that person, every person that person interacts with, he's never going to let that happen again because they or she doesn't want to be taken advantage of. I was like, well, was it taking advantage of? No, no. So how we can lift people up when we lift people up, they lift other people up. They tend to give you more of what you want, and it's always coming from how can I lift them up? And if that means, you know what, if I get to pay a little bit more right now, and they feel they got to win, did I lose? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. We got to look at the big picture. And that's an important aspect that as I'm negotiating for a free cup of coffee or that free upgrade or negotiating with your pet to come inside when it wants to be outside, are we beating down the spirit of this other person or animal, or are we lifting them up and empowering them? Here's your goodie for coming inside, or your child, or as we talked about earlier before you hit record, our own self esteem. How can we lift ourselves up by using these tools? And again, God bless Chris. I love him to death. I've thrown in a couple things. It's kind of interesting to see how they integrate in as I'll talk to one of his trainers, and all of a sudden you'll see it and you go, wow, I kind of influenced feel a little good about myself. But again, Chris is always learning. He doesn't claim that he knows everything. He's got a team around him. They're doing stuff. He talks about it in his books where I didn't even realize they were labeling or reflecting back to me or asking for a no because we're human. So just an amazing guy. He is applying it to sales and for a reasonable reason. That's where the money is. That doesn't mean, now if we could have a Tony come along, that
Do,
Tony
do
turned it
you think
into
he'll
sales,
be
but he also turned it into personal development.
now? I think now, and everybody that says this name that this person should be and could be and ought to be Brandon Voss.
Could be, but that's not Brandon's personality, at least not to my experience of him.
That's what people are like. If he just modified himself a bit, hypnosis or NLP, right? Goes back to hypno. See, that's
Brandon
the
is Brandon, though. I mean, Tony
yeah.
is Tony. Tony's a 1 in a million, literally, maybe 1 in 100 million. I mean, that he's him. Just like Obama is a 1 in a million, a Trump is a 1 in a million, a
Maybe
Biden,
I'm delusional.
unfortunately, is
For I
another
always
politician.
thought
But uh,
DNA could be either and Joel Osteen. You ever hear him talk once in a while? I'll tune into him, but he must have something really cool. And I agree that there's things in you that you can switch off like a light switch. You're not burdened by that. You know, whatever it is about you, you can toggle the switch. And so I'm like, oh yeah, it is true because if you look at some of these hypnotists, and I And I've been to a show where I saw a hypnotist hypnotize my cousin, and I made sure that, afterwards that he wasn't paid or playing along. And he goes, I still don't know what you're talking about me doing all that on stage. And I'm going like, you were really, he really hypnotized you. And and they can get people to get rid of a silly fear, maybe of sharks. Maybe you got a fear of something, right? And so my thinking is, well, why can't Brandon go to one of these brainwasher guys like Darren Brown or big, hypnotists and say, hypnotize me to make me a little bit more extroverted or something. Like,
We are, I mean, he would need to have the desire first. And, why can't we all change? I mean, there's all sorts of different, it reminds me of the movie Shallow Hal.
oh,
And
I love that
that's
movie.
where Tony Robbins, NLPs
Oh
him into
yes, in the
thinking,
elevator. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And,
Wow. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, good point. Yeah, why
you know,
should there be a Tony Robbins in every elevator?
yes, exactly. But we are who we are, and that's another huge, to my mind, tremendous aspect of whether it's NLP, whether it's Chris Voss. It doesn't matter who we're talking. Dale Carnegie had to win friends and influence people. Okay, I don't care who we're talking about. People are people. They're going to be who they are. And what the hard part is letting that person be who they are without making them bad or wrong or good and great. Just you are who you are. We know as part of human beings, kind of human beings 101,
You know what? I
we're
am
going to
guilty
do
of
what.
that. My new employee called me and
Oh,
said I'm too
please.
trusting.
Ah,
And yeah, seeing him, his observations and honesty of like, one, I'm too trusting.
uh-huh.
Someone said, I might be a little dumb for some of the trust actions I've done. Um, and yeah, like I can see that you have to go off your gut with people. And I mean, but then that goes back to abundance at the end of it. I told them, I go, well, if I start not trusting people, like, I trust you to log into my email, I put you in my family plan, I gave you a phone, so you have unlimited minutes, like, yeah, you could probably wreck my shit if you chose to, but I'm trusting you here because you see something of value in me that you kind of want to become like and, extract things. So, yeah, like as long as you see the value in me, like I see the value in you, we can trust each other. Because if not, I told him, if I start not trusting people, then that's a sure way to fail. That's you go into scarcity, right? Um, well, I don't have anything. I can't trust no one. I have to protect what I got. Well, the universe is now hearing you say, I don't have anything. This is what I want. I want nothing. I want less. But if you're saying, yeah, I trust people, I got a lot. Yeah, if he screws me over, yeah, I take a little ding on my piece of wood. But you know what? I got these other nice tools. I can go ahead and buff that out, and maybe even be a little better than it was. Hey, thank you. You did me a favor. You know, uh, that's more of abundance. That's more of like, doesn't that become delusional and almost um non-humble? But then again, it's competence and arrogance, I feel like are so eerily close that many people will misconstrue, you know. Do you purposely make an effort to come off humble when you speak with others, or are you just, hey, like Einstein, I love what he says. His wife would say, "Why don't you go put on some nice clothes? You have company coming." Right? I'm like, well, yeah, yeah, you want to be nice, you want to accommodate others, you want to look nice. Look, I dress nice today for others, right? I put on my false tooth, I'm going to work. I popped it in. I popped it in, my shirt and everything, I got my hair cut. Um, like, but I like what Einstein said is, well, dear, they're coming. if they're coming to see me and my clothes, then walk them to my closet. If they're coming to see me, then does it really matter if my hair isn't done, if I don't have the right shirt on, if I haven't put my tooth in? Like, is that where my value lies in my appearance? And that's been sticking with me. That's pretty like when older people are in hospice and they're about to just go bye-bye. Have you noticed a lot of them? They just show up. They want to be around others, but they don't care how they appear. Like they're not worried about the judgment. Like, oh, they're gonna think this shirt is stained that I don't. They just want to be like that to me it almost makes me teary.
It it really feels like whether it's confidence, whether it's personal security, I'm not quite sure what the right word is, but I think of, I mean, there's a bunch of examples, but Christ is the one that comes to mind. And not from a religious, standpoint, not that he's the son of God, but let's, I mean, he was born to a human woman, so he's human. Maybe the son of God, but he's a human. And he goes through and he's just there. He is the pillar, he is the iron if we're going to read the Bible, but he has the strength that it's not about being humble, but it's also not about being strong. He's simply him.
Mm.
And in that presence, everything falls into place. It's not striving, it's not going after, but it's also not being a victim and waiting and manifesting. I'm going to sit on the couch until everything changes. Um, it's a constant doing, but simply by being. It's a balance of Zen
But,
almost.
but you notice how his being changes throughout his age? Like when you look at him in the beginning as a little kid on the beach, gets angry at some kid in his sandcastle. So he just, right? Like I kind of feel like most of us are
Again, he's
still
a
in that
human
stage.
being.
We're still in that stage. Did you know the most leading cause of someone killing someone is over money? That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
scary, right? Because yeah, hey, that's my sandcastle. You knocked it down. I got to do something to you, mafia. You took one eye out. I'm taking your family eyeballs and yours. Like whoa,
Uh-huh.
right? And then there's the second face of Christ where yeah, he is showing up. He's a carpenter. He's of service, um, mainly to himself in a way. He's out preaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's going into rooms with, it's all about him, him, him. But then when he goes to like the later phase, I found most amazing is now it's about others, right? Now he's healing the blind. Now, like, yeah, the most important task he knows he's going away. And so he knows that the most important thing you could do is, like you said, help your fellow men. Whether, they might take from you, they might give you, it doesn't matter. You don't judge. You just trust that if you're at the right place and you're doing the right thing, yeah, the boulder might splat you, but keep tying your shoe as best as possible. All right. And that's a tough concept, though. That's true. Yeah, he had true abundance. I'm going to help everybody. And connecting to what you said, where he is just himself and things come together. I love when he goes into Martha's house and the two ladies, the sisters, where he just sits down and one of them, I feel is me, like the old me where the one sister's like, why don't you start cleaning the table? Start sweeping the floor. Oh my God, Christ is here. I better go start the potatoes. I better peel these carrots. Hey, Christ is here. Hey, put the fucking TV down. Christ is here. Fucking assholes. Christ, is it too bright in here? Is it too dark? Like, but the other sister, what does she do? She's calm. She sees his feet are dirty and starts washing them. It's like, wow, like, kind of like with negotiations, right? One of them was like asking, 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 asking. The other one was more of a statement. One is saying, Christ, what do you want to eat? Do you like this? Do you like that? The other one is like, I see, I'm aware your feet are dirty. You walked a lot. Here, sit down. I'll start washing your feet. He's like, yeah, which approach? I always thought it was the one getting everything done was the better one. But then afterwards, I go, oh wow, like I think we're all like that, that one, that sister. So what do you
It
do
all
for
comes.
patience? You meditate? What is it?
I We all go through different stages in life where we're working on different things. And right now, my stage is being present and trying to be in the moment. And sometimes I'll use, I love YouTube. They've got great, frequencies. It's
Oh,
synthetic resonance. You're listening to music and it just chills you out. I mean, there's definitely times that, you're bouncing off the walls. I call it visual mode because, that's you've got your auditory, your visual, and your kinesthetic mode. However, when we look at the truly successful people, the most powerful people are generally in a kinesthetic mode. They're chill. They're not going off the wall. Oh my goodness, this is what we have to do. We've got to fix this.
you're saying
No.
you're saying they're more like the lady that just washed the dude's feet.
And
Hey, I see a problem. I'm gonna get to action. I'm
look
chilled.
at Winston Churchill, Trump in the office. He's just talking. Okay. Um, we look at even Obama again, great orator. He could give a talk, and the crowd, but he's not reactive. He's not the singer that's screaming at everyone or the evangelist that this is what you have to do. And that's like, no. Okay, you're pushing that's so much energy coming at people that sometimes it can be contagious, but just like a virus that's contagious, eventually you get over it. If we look at the truly powerful people, a Jesus, they're kinesthetic. A Buddha, Allah, not Allah, but because Allah is another name for God, but the Muslim prophet that wrote everything that I'm totally forgetting his name, and I feel horrible about that. But it's a very kinesthetic, a very chill presence. Chris Voss, very chill presence.
Yeah.
When we talk about Anthony, again, I love Anthony. If there's a problem with Anthony, though, I know a bunch of people that have been to a bunch of his stuff. And even when I've been infected by Anthony, it is that it's an infection. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, you're going, yeah, that was an amazing seminar. What'd you learn? I have no idea. And it's like, no, I haven't been to a Chris Voss training. So I take this with a chunk of salt, not a grain, but a chunk of salt. I'm 99% sure that if we asked a participant that went to one of his trainings, 6 months later, they would still remember things because if he's recorded them, they're on YouTube, they're all over the place. All of his teachers, all of the people that are teaching negotiation, they're all kinesthetic. They're not out here. They're down here having they're trying to connect with the person. Much different paradigm.
Yeah. There's a connection. Um, but it's so underrated. And a lot of guys are always iffy on connecting with another guy. Like you trying, what are you trying to hook up with me or something? You got a thing for guys? Like, well, no, man. Looking to connect, ideas, brainstorm, bullshit, whatever. Because and I told a buddy that yeah, I my dad has a habit of just calling people in Mexico once a week or something like that. So I never, I'm like, you're wasting that's international minutes. What the fuck are you saying over the phone? Right? I never, and yes. whenever somebody would pass away in the family, so many people would show up, and I'm like, "What the fuck is he? I never met these people. I don't know he's connected to all these people, right? He's not wealthy, but he has a lot of connection. And yeah, and I'm so glad he's always had connections. He's a healthy guy, healthy ego. And I just had to look up into like, do guys need connections, or, shouldn't we operate like a hermit, like a James Bond 007 type of hermit, right? Cool shit, smoking my cigarette, time to go to work, get home, and just sit there and look at the stereo system blasting bass. Right? Why connections? And yeah, if you look at when men get divorced, a lot of them grumble after a divorce because they never maintain their connections. An own neighbor of ours committed suicide. He never really had many connections. So I always wonder, I'm like, are men scared? Is it a fear to connect with other men? What is it? Is it a stigma now?
No. So it's how do I want to start? There's the kind of surface level stuff that says men don't want to connect with other men because it's homosexual. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Men, and if anything, I'm going to say testosterone from even children has nothing to do with sex. Absolutely nothing to do with sex. Gender, yes, but not sexual orientation or anything like that. Because men have testosterone, what do? We like shooting games, we like pushing, we establish dominance in a relationship by who's the stronger. That's just who we are. Women do the same type of thing, but in a social context. And that's the
Oh,
estrogen. And we're just talking
yeah.
fundamental human being stuff here. This isn't about how it manifests could be a social construct. So more men being gay because and by that I mean homosexual because it's more socially acceptable. But even within a homosexual relationship, you're still going to have chest thumping and there's going to be a dominant and a passive person because that is what chemicals do to our brains and what the lion's share of people, those that aren't looking for, I hate to go booga booga on things, but more enlightenment in life, that are looking to get beyond, you're right, I'm wrong. There is no right, there is no wrong. Okay, there's things
Yeah.
that work and there's things that don't work, and there's things that work for me and things that work for you, and they may not work for me. But that doesn't make it right. It's what is right. Okay, as soon as somebody can honestly tell me that, I think the only thing that's right is that we're living and we all have our own unique beings on this planet, and we all have our own lessons that we need to learn, and that's a gift. It's what makes the world go round. Whether I hate them, Hitler. Okay, I hate you, and yet without you, we wouldn't have jets, we wouldn't have rockets, we wouldn't have microwave ovens, we wouldn't have Velcro, we wouldn't have so many different things. If I had a time machine, would I go back and change it? Wow, that's a tricky one because do we want to lose all of these magnificent things that could have only come about because of such a heinous human being? Gee, I don't know. I thank goodness I'm not God. I don't have to decide for something like that. That's a bugger. It really is. So it comes down to balance. And how can I live my best life? And if that's an alcoholic that's still actively
Mm.
drinking, that is their best life. Right now, they are doing the best job that they can do.
They're hanging in there, and that's
That's
helping them
exactly
hang.
it. And that could be the doctor, that could be a president, that could be any. We're all living the best lives that we can be with our circumstances. So, what are we doing on the planet? Trying to be the best people we can be. I don't know. That's up to everyone. And trying to dictate what that is for somebody else. Again,
And
who
this is what I
made
love
you
about
God
these
that you
tools
get to
is that
dictate? You know,
what I like about these tools is that, yeah, when you do come across that person that thinks they are doing right by being an alpha gorilla, right? Look at me, I'm the man, and it's just like, well, might not. Yeah, that's working now. That's like you're playing checkers. But if you go to chess, being the alpha dog, the alpha, the guy that studied the whole alpha crap, and came up with that. He wrote the second book, which not many people read, where he went back there and followed up with that alpha gorilla. And when he got injured, his arm, the other gorilla said, "Oh, time to fuck his shit up. Yeah, he fucked my bitch, and now he's injured. Oh, I'm coming for him. I'm gonna take his spot, motherfucker. I got you." And then, so that was it's like, whoa, wait, that's not. You don't want to be alpha because all the
but you
people you
need
kind of
alphas.
burned around
Alphas are
you,
an important part of society. We need
for sure,
alphas. We need everyone, though. That we
we
literally,
do.
you know.
But it's just a word of warning to the alphas. Don't get so arrogant because you got the intelligence, the muscle, and the might and the money right now. One stumble, and could be enough for the folks around you to take advantage of you because you've been doing it for so long.
And maybe that
Reciprocation.
is their lesson to learn. That's what they needed to learn in life. I mean, how do we know that we've learned all the lessons in life? Are you still alive? Yes, you have not learned all the lessons you need. And as heartbreaking and tragic as it is, if a month-old baby dies, apparently they are at the point that they can move on. And I do believe I am a believer in something to move on to. I don't know what that looks like for everyone, but that is they're at that stage. But once we become semi-conscious, and I don't
That's
go
it. I
with
think,
teenagers on that.
and so I think that's the goal. They say when you turn 40, that's when you really you can go into the spiritual realm because you're at a mature
I don't know
stage.
if age has anything to do with it. I look at Kung
Well,
Fu
yeah.
Panda, and to me, that's a quintessential. The panda is the
Well, there
young
is
one, and yet he seems to get it. He gets that Zen balance, you know.
and that to me is the ultimate stage to be invited to the next place where there's a movie out there where the guy's like, well, you're operating your 3% brain, but once you get rid of fear like I did, then you can go up to like 10% brain usage, but if you don't get past that, we're just gonna, we're not gonna let you go on to the next stage. And I love it, like, yeah, like we can't even get past our own fears.
That's the key, though. And if we're talking about negotiation, how do we get let go
Scarcity,
of?
remove scarcity, there's plenty. I would say,
Well, not just that, but it's what am I scared of? Am I scared of losing? Am I scared of scarcity? Am I scared of versus just I'm here to have a conversation. That's the only reason I'm here is to have a conversation.
well, I gotta head off, but I want to wrap it up with that. With just to have a conversation is a big deal because when that guy went back out to the jungle to study gorillas, he ran into another pack where they had a leader who was very collaborative. Um, he made sure all the gorillas around him were taken care of. Everybody was fed. He stuck to his woman. It was just a solid gorilla. And when he
Hmm.
got injured, he was surprised that the other gorillas brought him back to health because they're like, no, we need you. You're an asset here. So I,
Hmm.
I think that's a great way to end this is, are you being an asset to those around you?
That is, to me, it's a very powerful way to
And
look at
in
whatever
this
it is that you're
last
trying to
minute,
accomplish.
tell everybody what asset are you? Like what type of asset are you to somebody?
The asset that I am is simply a presence that people can be who they are and discover more about themselves.
It's like Plato.
Yeah, sort of.
Show me your ideas. We'll look at it. Oh, that's ugly, baby.
Well, I mean, if you truly want,
Socratic method.
is the Socratic method, it's many methods, but it's not just a method. To be present to another human being, there's I don't think there is a greater gift that any person can give any other person on this planet than simply listening to understand. Remember the Chris Voss thing, which actually was Stephen Covey, but listen to
Mhm.
understand, not to reply. So to
I said it to
truly get
myself yesterday.
someone
Yep.
is the big, and that person, can you read the animal? Can you read your child? Can you read the bus driver? Can you read the barista at Starbucks? Can you be that presence for 10 seconds or hours? When we can do that, that is the greatest gift that any human being can give another human being. It really is.
Thank you so much, William. Chat again.
Sounds wonderful.